Hello and welcome to the show.
Hello.
I am joined by...
Guess who?
That's when you're supposed to say your name.
I'm Laura Hope. Maybe familiar with me if you've listened to this podcast before.
Yes, people probably are quite familiar with you. And
They shouldn't be.
I apologise if you can hear sort of low rumblings at any point because seems to be some sort of caddish football match going on. So there might be some shouting and some yaying and some bottle smashes.
There were 3 or 4 heavily armed police vehicles over by the park when I went to the shop. So, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. It's
always good.
Always crazy at this part of town in Edinburgh when there's the local football match on.
Mm-hmm. The weather should just say sports.
And obviously this part of the town's quite old street, so it can't really take that much traffic coming in, so it's just a nightmare for parking. I mean, when I've had previous guests on, and well, you probably don't have to deal with this, but they bring their car on a Sunday when there's a football match and they can't get parked anywhere near the studio, and it's crazy.
They should all just live with you like me.
People don't know that you live with me. Come on. I have the rock star appeal where people don't know that I have a girlfriend.
You've got to be available,
yes.
You know?
I am definitely not emotionally available.
Sweet. But yeah, speaking of emotions, I find the sports day is very emotionally taxing because you want to go to the shop or whatever and you're going to get shouted at by like people in colors and
people in colors,
the green colors or the other colors. I forget the other colors. I'm just traumatic amnesia. I went to the shop just now and whoever had already gotten chucked out of the match because I think it had already started was yelling at the girls working in the shop and it was just like, oh my god.
I know, it kind of seems to attract the kind of worst people.
I think it's just the kind of, the mob mentality thing. It's like everybody's acting up, so everybody acts up. Yeah.
And we were supposed to have Robert Garrett on this podcast with us both, actually, which was going to be an interesting podcast. But he seems to have started his own cult, so he kind of backed out at the last minute because he had some hay fever or something. It was a legit reason for not coming on, but he seems to also be posting about his new business endeavour, so it would have been good to sort of have him on as well and talk about it, but he's probably really distracted by it at this point and
by his cult.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, or his business fever.
Hopefully it's a sexy cult because
all the best cults are sexy cults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as we've found out with what is this cult called, the sex one where
the Smallville adjacent cult. I can't remember. It's got a really annoying name.
It's going to be called Smallville Gate, probably.
Yeah.
But the day we found out that everyone from Smallville were perverts.
Weirdly.
Except Superman, because he was very, very bland.
Boring.
Yeah, and vanilla.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember. It's got like a really annoying name.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't read how it should sound, or I can't remember exactly how.
It's sort of like an idea you'd come up with as a name for a business that was definitely doomed to failure.
Well, as I have my laptop in front of me, I will search for it.
That's an addition.
I'll put sexy cult.
That's gonna get weird. That's not what you're putting, is it?
The 15. Oh, this is in Cosmopolitan. The 15 craziest things about being in a sex cult.
I'd say number 1 is the fact that you're in a sex cult. That's a good start.
Yeah, you don't need 50 more reasons.
I'm excited for this hard-hitting journalism from Cosmopolitan.
Actually, now that I've started down this road, we have to follow it.
Yeah, okay, so what are they? This is going to get weird, isn't it?
Okay, so number 1, one of the 15 craziest things, apparently, about being in a sex cult, which is weird how Cosmopolitan could talk about it. Do they have someone on the inside, in a sex cult, or...
Yeah, and I feel like maybe they're tarring all, I'm having not heard these yet, are all sex cults the same? I don't know.
You can't just assume everyone's sex cult gender,
Yeah, exactly.
Not all sex cults are built the same.
Mm-hmm, I'm sure.
Okay.
Just give us some highlights.
I think this is going to get really strange.
I think because I assume Cosmopolitan being what it is, that it's not exactly going to be hard-hitting journalism.
Okay, number 1, they had a guru. Don't know why that.
What sex cult is this? This is not. That was a weirdly boring one.
The story is by Catherine Plato, or Plato. It's a sex cult. Her story is fascinating. So it's a woman who was in a sex cult.
I should hope so. With a definitely made up name.
It doesn't tell you which one it is. Her story is fascinating, filled with tons of terrifying tidbits. I can't say that one right. I always think it's tit. Not tid.
I think some people do say that.
Yeah.
I've seen that before. I feel like that's sort of like old-timey. Yeah.
Tidbits.
Old-timey and Scottish ends up being the same. Like I loved the last of your podcasts, and I loved the expressions that you gentlemen use because they do sound sort of like old country expressions to North American ears, but it's just like cool happening young men using them.
We're hip jive young men. Of course, we're going to use the most up-to-date fashionable language possible.
I love it. It's great.
You young whippersnapper. Okay, so which one is this? So it was led by a charismatic, manipulative, controlling man named Sandoval.
That rings a bell.
So basically, they had a guru. Members of the cult would watch the guru, the movie, the one with Michael Myers.
I'm so confused.
Okay, this is going really strange. The guru, not the movie. The actual guru they had. Sandoval manually stimulated his student-turned-wife into a 15-minute orgasm. I'm moving my index finger just around her bleep. Now I'm moving slightly faster.
No. Are they sure she wasn't just having a panic attack? Oh my God.
Yes, I mean, if you're touching someone when they don't want to be like, they're all sort of like frigid when you're hugging someone.
Yeah.
You can just imagine when some guru guy's like trying to stimulate you through.
Oh, this is too gross. I'm not into this.
Okay, I'll just go. I won't go into detail. I'll just go through the
Give me the
numbers.
The greatest hits.
So the guru, number 2, manually stimulated his wife while a group watched on.
Cool.
Yep. Okay. Number 3, they aggressively, in parentheses, recruited people. Which, yeah.
Yep, that sounds like a cult. That's kind of their thing.
They say it was a very heterocentric program.
Okay.
I don't know why they would mention that. Why is that crazy?
And I guess it's not like free love. It's like...
So his introduction course was a $900 3-day workshop intensive.
They always hit you in the wallet, the cults.
I know.
First the wallet,
they
then
want
the
your
feels.
orgasms, then you take your bloody money. That's leave you with nothing but remorse
and orgasms, presumably.
No, you only have it's like chickens. They only have a number of eggs in their lifetime that they lay. This is bro science. You only have a number of orgasms that you can have in your life.
And if you have them all at once, like in 15 minutes, it's just like you're done.
You're gone.
Yeah.
You're just an empty husk. You're all orgasmed out. Wink, wink.
I'm so glad this is off to such a weird start.
I love Cosmopolitan. Not. Anyway.
Somebody's going to take that out of context.
Okay, so...
Yeah.
There's 25 students ranging in age from late 20s to early 60s. Wow, that's weird. With an even split of men and women, which is surprising. But I guess you wouldn't join. It's probably like a swingers club where, you know, the males have to pay more to get in. They probably you're going to bring like an even sort of couple ratio. You're not just going to have more women or more men because it would be, or single men even, because it would get weird.
Well, I feel like a lot of the sex cult guys, they like to be the only guy or the only kind of main guy. Yeah. And then there maybe,
Okay, number 5, it started as a fun 3-day seminar but quickly got intense. Which it would do if you're in a sex
this is
cult.
Such a weird article. I cannot figure out the tone of this.
Me either. Is it like sort of semi... informative?
I think if the title had been 15 weird things about a fun 3-day seminar, it would be more surprising. But when they've led with the fact that it's a sex cult and they were like, number 3, there was sex in the cult.
I think they're trying to do something like Vice does a lot where they normalize things through just using normal language, because they're not really like, oh, then this terrible thing that this guy did, blah, 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 blah. They just use like normal sort of everyday language to make it sound like it's a normal practice.
I guess so, but it ends up just being kind of surreal because they've led with like weird things about this thing, and then so far they're all pretty much what you would expect.
But the sixth
that's
one,
hard. Sixth.
I'm sixth of your sixth.
I'm a Sith.
It's very expensive. Is number 6, which
haven't we already covered the finances? That's weird. So
they're saying you would have to pay several $1,000s would get me love lessons.
Love lessons.
Which means a weekly group phone call. This guy loves group stuff with Sandoval.
I feel like
a weekly 3-hour group class at his LA home for 15,000.
Oh boy.
Who would pay this guy?
You should probably just buy Cosmopolitan. It's cheaper. This is actually elaborate viral marketing for Cosmopolitan. Or you could spend $4.95 and get sex tips from Cosmopolitan.
Okay, you never, number 7, pouty face. You never voice your disagreement. Which is pretty standard for a cult.
For a cult, yeah, that's like the whole thing.
Because if you didn't want to do something, then you wouldn't be in the cult.
Yeah, or like... Yeah, that's, again, pretty standard for cults. Yeah.
Very cultish.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8. You have to believe in impossible miracles.
Such as...
the female orgasm, I guess.
Soundbite.
I guess, maybe. Oh, it's pretty much that. He says it's hard to enjoy touching another person because of the calluses on his fingers. That's what someone said.
Ew.
Sandoval had the man raise his hands to the front of the room and feel the energy of his fingertips after he was trying to stimulate someone.
Oh my God.
That's so weird. And the man cried, "I can feel it," joylessly.
Joylessly? What does that sound like? I can feel it.
It's next to impossible to graduate. Yeah.
That's also totally how cults work.
If you have a grasp of your own orgasms, then you don't need this Sandoval oval face.
Sandoval. Yeah. And he needs your money. So it's sort of like chiropractors. Like, if they actually fix you, they stop getting your money. So
this probably would be as famous as Scientology if it wasn't for all the sex stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they work like a classic cult that makes it like a pyramid scheme almost, but with your emotions, I guess, you know, and your money, I guess.
Alternately, it sounds like a really boring sex cult.
If it's just all of them watching one guy, then that's kind of weird.
And it sounds like very bureaucratic and just like boring.
You're next.
So that's like the one weird thing about the sex cult is it's surprisingly normal and boring.
The leader and his wife like to date students. This is number 10.
Yeah, that's equally not at all surprising.
Yeah. And a regular occurrence for certain hand-picked women in the group to become sexually involved with the leaders. That's
also totally what I would expect, yes.
Number 11, you have to deal with public humiliation.
I would also totally expect that, yes.
What do you think that would involve?
The fact that you're part of a sex cult?
Or some guy called Sandals is trying to like touch you all the time.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, because you are, basically every aspect of that suggests public humiliation to me, both within the cult and without it in terms of...
What are the chances that this guy does wear sandals?
Those are like really good. That's a really good chance.
Open-toed ones without socks or socks? What do you think?
Without socks. I'm gonna say without socks. Yeah.
I think, or do you think he keeps them on when he's having sex as well? Because if he has socks on underneath, he can take his sandals off at least.
I feel like he's a no sock guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good old sandal.
Yeah, but I feel like he wears those, those like jelly sandals with sparkles in them that girls had in like the 90s.
Or Crocs.
Crocs. Oh my God. That's got to be number 15.
And he has that weird sort
Croc
of
oval.
Croc tan, people have on their feet.
Which, funnily enough, makes you look kind of like a crocodile. You get all kind of blotchy.
Okay, this is getting strange. Number 12, things can get sexist.
Well, it's a sex cult centered around one dude, so...
They need to rename this 15 obvious things about a
sex cult. Exactly, yeah. This is so weird.
Okay, number 14. We're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 13. You have to be okay with being intimate with someone you're not attracted to.
Yep, that sounds like a sex cult.
Sounds like life.
Yeah. That's like, again, the whole thing with all cults, though, pretty much. Including religious ones that pretend they're just religions and not cults.
Number 15 will surprise you, actually. But
will
number 14, it caused at least one person to experience their first manic episode.
That's a weird one because who says? Yeah. Like, was that a psychiatric evaluation or was somebody already?
So Daphne, a former cult member, said, when you support the bliss course, there's a lot of sexual energy. I think the orgasm helps release the energy from your body. So after a weekend of absorbing the rising sexual energy with no outlet, Daphne says experienced her first manic episode, which landed her in a psychiatric hospital.
Or she was like,
but she was experiencing full body orgasms constantly.
Yeah, that sounds like a panic attack to me. Like, I'm obviously not Daphne's doctor, but to me, you get drawn into a cult like that because you're like vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then you get basically brutalized, like emotionally or whatever, and then you freak out. Like, it sounds like that.
Okay, so number 15, the most surprising of all of them.
Is it Crocs?
You can get out.
Well, yeah, obviously, because she got out. That's the only thing I knew going into it.
That's the only thing she probably knew going into it. You can. Plato left the group after 6 months. She didn't like the pressure to recruit, the constant volunteering, aka free hand jobs, and the persuasive sexism. Or pervasive. Not the pervasive.
Persuasive and pervasive. That was the recruiting right there.
Come on.
I guess that just means it's a cult and not like an evil cult, like an evil murderous cult versus just a cult.
They probably found like the least sort of weirdest one for that. The examples they used, like they obviously couldn't use a cult that was really
disturbing. Yeah, because that's the thing as well. Is Cosmopolitan's all about being like sexy and fun. So if they actually wrote like a disturbing, hard hitting thing, that would be really out of place, I guess.
Yeah,
but they don't want to like sexualize it either because it is creepy. So they just have to write a super boring piece about a sex cult.
This is okay. So the Alison Mack girl, who's the Smallville
blonde girl,
is the one that was
Chloe.
Like really annoying to begin with.
Yeah,
and then they gave her like tremendous powers that were sort of just so overpowered.
Okay, I didn't see that much of it.
So this is from Variety, and they're saying Alison Mack inside her journey from Smallville to alleged sex cult leader. It's crazy just to see her pictures here and from the days of Smallville to think that she would then go on to recruit for this sex cult.
I definitely would have voted her least likely to be recruiting for a sex cult of the cast of Smallville.
Or even Kirsten Crook for being in it as well.
Yeah, and she got out pretty quickly apparently, or that's the line.
But how far do you have to go to, like, I mean, there must have been some straight up sex going on initially. It's a sex cult, you know.
I guess so. But it sounds like that one was all centered around the one dude. Like,
I'm trying to remember I'm trying to get his name.
I can't remember.
It's like a weird sort of, what's it called? His name is Keith Raniere.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember what it was called. The actual cult had a weird sort of name.
Yeah, it's like letters.
Yeah.
I mean, all the words are letters, but it's just letters and not a word. But you say it like a certain way.
I'll just put name.
It was like Nesquik or something, but not that.
It's NXIVM.
So I was pretty close with Nesquik.
That'd be a better name, actually. Yeah. But yeah, I always find
they call it Nexium?
Yeah,
something like that?
Nexum.
Nexum.
I find it so strange that someone can just, like in this day and age, with all the information, it's probably similar to someone who converts to a religion later on in life. It's like a sort of, how can you knowingly go into something like this?
Yeah.
When you know how socially and societally these things are perceived. You know, you must have an idea of what it could look like.
Yeah.
And how can you do that? Like, it's not as if they were born into these cults.
Yeah, I guess it's like, yeah, because whenever you like even looking at things like Scientology and how successful they still seem to be, even though all this information is out there and available to people. But I think that they're so good at preying on people who are, and I mean, it's the same with like the role religion fulfills, is just, I guess, a lot uglier, but I think
Scientology is less about being a religion and sort of a cult of success. Like that's what they're telling people that they're going to do. They're going to be successful.
Yeah.
They're going to succeed in life, and they're in a group. It's like a sort of like a mentorship, and it's like entrepreneurs or people who are high up in business. You see these people that are ahead of you in that religion, and that's something that you can project towards, I guess. And they seem like they give you the tools to get there, but it's all done under the guise of being, you know, a really horrible cult and religion.
Yeah, and like so much of it is about sort of financial control as well, which again, I think people, it doesn't seem necessarily real, that aspect of it, until you get into it. Maybe, but I think they're so good at picking people who are like struggling to maybe match what they feel is their identity with where they are in their lives, or who are just struggling with their identity at all. Like you think of how many actors are involved in, well, and then, I mean the same with the Nesquik, but the idea, and I know it's a cliche and I don't want to insult any actors out there because I know some lovely ones, but that you sort of don't have like a central kind of locus of self, and that's why you're attracted to like basically being different people. And also the superficiality of that industry and the kind of harshness of it, and you're always sort of looking for the next big thing that's gonna, you know, make your life okay, basically.
Or recognition. That's a big thing for actors. You know, they go to where else is there that there's a sort of semi-mecca for acting? Like everyone goes to Hollywood. Yeah. And it's no accident that Scientology just sprung up out like a well out of this point. You know, it's a place where it's full of considerably sort of vapid, personality-less people who are looking for something and validation. Yeah, and the like, I think the blow to your self-esteem about getting out there, and maybe it's kind of like when you I don't know, maybe graduate from elementary school and go to high school. I know you've sort of talked about that, but I've never went to elementary school. Sorry. Well, little kid school, whatever. Bite me. We don't have that over here. Elementary, my dear Walton. You're used to being a big fish in a small pond, and you maybe think you're the shit, and then you get to somewhere where everyone is as good as you are, or better, and you have to deal with like the way you defined yourself, how you kind of identified. Suddenly you're in amongst a bunch of you, and you have to figure out sort of how to reconcile your sense of self with that. I think that kind of leads into that what became a thing, and the offshoot, like a sort of stop valve for that, is porn. Like women went to Hollywood to think that they were like going to be the next big thing, and these actresses, and like you say, like they get there and they realize that they're not like the top dog when that like every waitress in every restaurant in LA is as hot as you are, basically, and probably as good an actor as you are. Like, so how do you, which direction do you turn to when you get to that place? Because a lot of people have given up a lot of their life from where they lived before to go to these places. Well, not these places, just one, you know, Hollywood. Yeah. And I guess you have to do something when you get there. Yeah. And you can't not work, you know. And I think that's maybe how a lot of women get involved in that, unless they specifically go there to be in porn. Which is totally fine. Which nowadays is probably something that's more commonplace. Yeah. I think also maybe compared to something like a side hustle, like being a waitress or something, at least you can feel like you're kind of doing what you set out to do, like you're being in films, and also getting the gratification of sort of people desiring you. I think that would maybe be in a slightly dark way better for your self-esteem than say like working in hospitality, because you're being told you're hot, and you probably got there in the first place because you're hot. Like, it's probably the main thing. It's not because you're like Judi Dench and you're an amazing actor or whatever. But and imagine busting tables. I think that's a phrase that North Americans say. Busting tables. Busting tables. I always thought like you were fighting tables. You're just taking dishes off them. That's what you're doing. Putting dishes on, taking dishes off. And like if you're going there and a lot of people are just cutting out that middleman, would you rather bust tables for a pittance? Yeah. That's a nice word for you. Oh, that's a pittance. Good one. Yeah. And or work in porn or work on cams, you know, like there's a lot of people that do that now, and they can make what they make in a week in a day or an afternoon. Yeah, and it feels relatively like And there's that
the thin edge of the wedge. Yeah.
Like there's that validation like we were talking about.
And it would feel a lot like safer because you're in charge of yourself essentially, I think, with the cam stuff. So
it's funny how that's something that comes like it spawns out of somewhere to cater to men and obviously the women, because they're doing it. A lot of them are doing it, especially the cams. They're doing it because they want to and they want to make money.
Yeah.
And they know they have something that men, you know, would pay money or women, you know, there must be women on these sites. It's probably,
probably
less,
yeah.
but you know, it would happen.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that comes out of as soon as civilization gets comfortable and in a place where women are sort of relatively treated well.
Yeah.
Then it pops up. Like there's this thing that comes about that's sort of a transaction that happens where you're showing your body and then men are paying for it.
Yeah.
And that's such a strange time.
And compared to, because I mean, like obviously like prostitution and sex work, it's like it's like one of the first industries or whatever.
It's the oldest known trade. Well,
but compared to that, like something like cam work, and I don't know what somebody who actually does it, how they would feel, but it would feel like you're giving so little of yourself away relative to what you're getting out of it compared to something like sex work or like even stripping or whatever. Like it just would be emotionally very exhausting, I think, and also occasionally dangerous. And you're just dealing with people face to face, and it's a weird vibe.
And I think there is a push towards, not a push, like a natural gravitation for people now that they want stuff like that as opposed to like these sort of made up blonde hair, sort of massive fake boobs porn. Like it seems to be just more amateur stuff now that's becoming popular. Like people want to see real people, not
I think that because I think
monstrosities.
That's some people's fantasies, but it's not everybody's fantasies. And I don't really, it's kind of almost at the opposite end of the spectrum, but the same as in the fashion industry. And like, who decided that the way models look is the way we want people to look?
No.
And it's sort of the same in porn, but like almost the opposite type of person.
Like
how does that happen?
How did that come about? The sort of blonde hair, the massive fake boobs, which it's obvious when you see it on someone.
Yeah.
I don't find it's not something I find attractive.
They just look like sore. Like, oh, be careful. Oh my God.
And especially at that time, it wasn't a surgery that was sort of like perfected at the time.
They're like leaking implants and like all kinds of creepy stuff.
I wonder what the history of sort of changing your body in that way is. Is there sort of prehistory stuff?
There's all the weirds like the foot binding and stuff like that. As far as surgical, I have heard of women having ribs removed in like the sort of Victorian periods to get more of the kind of hourglass silhouette, but I don't know if that's one of those things that people have kind of made up and run with, because that seems like a really dangerous thing to do.
And it's hard to, there's no physical evidence for a lot of stuff like that. If it was like implants maybe back in the day, because the implants would have, they must be made of biological materials opposed to sort of like a stone where you would see the stone in the grave.
Still be there. I think just in terms of like it all would have had to happen basically after we had a pretty good understanding of germs, because people would be dying left, right, and center before they understood about like sterilization and stuff like that if they were doing invasive cosmetic things, although they were giving people like trepanations and stuff like that.
So I think I remember reading something about this actually, like breast implants, and it went back like a lot further.
I think it was you'd said that, and it was way earlier than I would have thought, and I was like, no way, because you would be really risking your life. Like now it's like 0.1% of the time whatever complication happens, but back then it would be like 50-50 basically whether you die. So you didn't even want to go to the dentist if you could avoid it back then. So
I think the first sort of ones that they're talking about on Wikipedia starts in the sort of 19th century.
Yeah.
But I think I read something about them having evidence that it happened in sort of like the Egyptian times, something like that. Like
although they were pretty good surgeons, the Egyptians.
But
so
I think it was to do with maybe filling them with something, like putting like a needle or not like their version of
that's
whatever,
creepy.
and filling it with sort of some sort of oil or something like that.
Given how into after death stuff. The Egyptians were, how would they know whether that was done while someone was alive or not as well?
I know. Yeah, true. Because that could be something that they were like,
yeah,
well, the gods need to know you have massive boobs.
Yeah,
that's
you need them for the afterlife. So that would be really funny.
What's his name? The Horus wants to see your big silicon-filled boobs.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I'm sorry, your heart is too heavy, but your tits are great. So.
Okay.
That's weird. But yeah, they were all getting surgical back then, and they were weirdly chill about sex, as far as I know, for a pretty conservative society. So.
What should I put? History of body modification. I think body.
Yeah, or like, yeah, I guess we're gonna get like foot binding and neck stretching and head elongating. That's another weird one. The head elongating, the binding.
The ones in South America.
Yeah, and they found it in other regions as well, like Mongolia.
That's why they think they're all connected somehow.
Yeah.
Because it's something that came from, I think it was to appease the gods, I think.
That's weird. But then again, that was also like trepanation, like letting demons out of people's heads by drilling holes in their skulls when that was super likely to kill them.
Yeah, they do that in the jungles as well of South America.
That creeps me out so much.
Like they drill holes and they think it releases sort of pressure, which gives a euphoric sense. So it makes it seem like you're seeing, maybe it's something to do with DMT, the release of it. Because obviously when you're near death, and I think having a hole in your fucking head would be the closest to.
Yeah, like that. Like they can't even do that now, let alone like in the jungle, like with. Like, that creeps me out so much, honest to God. It's like, what's the worst thing you can do when you don't have any way of keeping things from getting infected? And, no brains.
Yeah, I'm not getting that much because it doesn't come up with nothing. It's pretty much all the sort of modern, the modern history of body modification as opposed to, I don't want to say prehistory because prehistory means it wasn't recorded.
Yeah, you could say pre-modern.
Yeah, pre-modern. Okay.
Or we could do some research and...
Yeah.
Get everyone next time. Everyone waiting with bated breath to hear about ancient Egyptian breast implants.
So, anyone who's listened to this podcast before will know that I have a slight sort of dislike for a certain publication. I say publication.
You say slight.
With I quotes.
With an a so-called publication.
Vice. So, I wasn't going to do this.
But you are.
And I've always just been so frustrated with some of their headlines. I'm just going to work on their headlines this time as opposed to picking like an article that they've done and then try to break it down because I didn't have enough time because it was super close for us doing this. But it's something I'll work on.
Cool.
I'm thinking about doing it. But basically, they write some absolute horrendous articles. And I think people, obviously, they have an effect on what's going on in people's sort of conversations because they release these articles that seem so fantastic as well as sort of like a lot of people think it's what's happening and that's the paradigm and that's what socially everyone's thinking as well.
Because it has historically been quite cool. And to be fair...
And when... Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but like, Vice, like... even go 5 years ago, they were doing some amazing journalism and it feels like it was actual journalism. But now it just seems to be that they release these articles that are completely clickbait as well.
Yes.
And a lot of them are just opinion pieces. And an opinion piece can be wrote by anyone. That doesn't mean you have to be a journalist.
Or not an idiot. The ones that really annoy me are the ones that they act like something is a hot take on something, and it's like, no, you're just being. It's always like
we need
three
to talk
removes
about
of contrarian.
The headline's always we need to talk about blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
and it's always some sort of like cultural appropriation or something.
And I'm always like, we have.
But they think like you're saying, they word it in such a way that they think they're coming up with something completely bold and new.
Yeah. And I'll be like, yes, we did that. We did that in 2014 and we're still doing it. Or when they're like, sort of hot take, so-and-so isn't that great. And it's somebody who it's already been, 3 waves of are they or are they not great. Like, it's like, to be fair.
There's something that I'll enjoy during the week.
Well, they
whether
usually,
it's a movie or something. And then within 3 days of me talking to you about it, they will release an article and they'll be like, this is why this is shit.
I do suspect that they've bugged you and just write articles to annoy you at this point.
I think Shane Smith invented Siri, and then they use Siri to sort of
spy on you,
hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, to hear what you specifically are saying.
Write some terrible contrarian.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this to hate on them. They've done some fantastic stuff. It just seems like there's a bunch of, like, they've taken the comments down on their website.
It's a really bad sign.
So, you know, and they're just horrendous. Like, some of the comments I've seen, people are constantly just like, this is why I'm unfollowing Vice. You know, it's a lot. Every article is the last straw for someone.
Yeah. And they're all the last straw for you. But you've collected all those straws. I was just going to say, I do actually really like Vice Munchies, and I really like It Gives Me Life, the London Rental Opportunity of the Week column. But neither of those are like hard-hitting journalism.
No.
So
but they
don't think that they are, and they're funny. Like, they're well written and they're interesting. And yeah.
If you've never heard of Vice, go and watch some of their videos on YouTube, because they have fantastic pieces on going to South America.
Yeah, the travel ones are great.
And, you know, going into sort of Iraq and Afghanistan as well, just these kind of hipster guys with like low voices going to these random places. You know, they're like Peely-Wally, which is a Scottish word.
I love it.
They're all like really white and sort of like look like Nostradamus.
Yeah, and they're always either really thin or like pudgy. It's not like a middle.
So if I feel like this is kind of well received, I will do this and I'll pick one. So I might do a little segment where it's like Vice, my shit Vice article of the week.
Awesome.
But for now, I'm just going to read like some of the headlines, some of them that are pretty terrible, and maybe just use it as a point of discussion, which that's what this is. It's not me trying to like diss them in a way it is. But
it is a bit.
It's just generate conversation. You know, obviously that's what they're doing, so we can look at what they're doing and generate conversation.
Sweet.
So yeah. So okay, so this is some of the headlines from some of the terrible Vice articles this week. This is the first one that comes up when I'm scrolling through their Facebook page. You might die suddenly in your 20s.
Yes.
What do you think that could possibly be? They're saying an undiagnosed heart condition, cocaine, kills 12 people, young people, every week in the UK. This is how you find out if you have it.
It's like one specific one that they're talking about?
Oh, fuck knows. I'm not actually going to click on that. I'm just like reading the headlines.
Yeah.
But
that's such a weird headline, just based on whatever that's about. It's
They're turning into like Cosmopolitan as well, because here's that what every item of clothing you wear says about you.
That's annoying. Although those
the picture is like a Lessie top, so it's like 90s hipster stuff.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Like, we've discussed this before. The younger generation, like, I'm not part of that anymore, obviously, because I'm old. The stuff that they're into is like the 90s side of things, where when I was younger, it was the 80s was sort of cool, because it was all what we were. It's always like 10 years behind or 20 years behind the fashion trends, as well as modern fashion.
I think also, like, I keep seeing kids these days, and they're wearing this stuff, and to me there is some genuinely really cool fashion from the 90s, but it's like they've picked all the worst 90s fashion, like the weird like dad pullover fleeces.
And you work at like a market, a food market, where you serve wine, and there's probably maybe from 18 to 20, like a group of kids that always come, different kids every week, but they're wearing the exact same stuff.
It's so so weird.
Was that how people saw us when we were younger, like when we were all moshers,
when
and
like
hipsters,
emo or whatever?
Like, like, these kids came to the fucking country festival and they were all wearing the same emo clothes. Yeah,
it's so weird though. It's so I ID'd some of them as well, just because partly because I was curious. I was like, what age are you actually? So and they're all with the like it's the stuff that I was glad had gone away when the 90s were over. It wasn't like the cool stuff from the 90s. It was genuinely like, and the t-shirts made from like really horrible, overly thick material that were just super horrible and like uncomfortable.
Funny haircuts and like glasses that aren't prescription as well. Yeah,
although our generation has done that with hipster glasses, for sure. Sometimes those type of articles are funny because sometimes it is the London rental opportunity guy, Joel Golby, and he's really funny. He's a funny writer. because he did one that I read it like so I could be annoyed by it, but then it was by him and it was really funny. It was one of those type of listicles, but
okay, this is a prime example. We need to talk about these viral sexual advice letters. Now, I assume that there must be a bunch of letters that went viral for some reason with advice on it, and they're obviously going to break it down in such a way that's sort of woke.
Okay, yeah, and that could be interesting because the girl who does their people write in about sex stuff to Vice. The girl who does that column is a girl I went to university with.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Megan.
This guy's called Angus Harrison.
All right. Well,
that's a very Scottish name.
That is a very Scottish name, but I don't know if it's to do with letters that like she was sent or answered or whatever. And to be fair, some of those were quite interesting in terms of like.
I think that's downstairs.
Yeah. Please don't. We have
someone working downstairs.
We have a horrible DIY neighbor now.
If this is
gonna go on, we're gonna have to go.
Sorry about this, guys. It's just the perks of doing your podcast in your apartment.
I do kind of really want an opportunity to tell this person off, so why now?
I think that's it.
Hopefully. Whatever it is, they're bad at it.
If it happens again, we'll have to go down and say.
Yeah. Sorry,
okay,
babe.
so 10 questions you always wanted to ask an asexual person. Well, that sounds pretty legit, though. That's a good article.
I guess, yeah, that's cool, I guess. But again, it's all like, it's weird how everybody's like entitled to knowing about other people's sexual preferences.
But it is something that you need, like, it's something that will come up. Not everyone's into sex, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure people have misconceptions about that. And no, that's cool.
It's a good thing to sort of talk about, I guess.
Yeah. And so I was just going to say about the column that Megan was doing, but she's sort of covered stuff like, who as a woke person are you obliged to be sexually attracted to? Is it okay to not be sexually attracted to like trans people or whatever like that? And I think there wasn't really an answer in that one, which I think is probably realistic, but it's just like you just need to be aware of your own feelings and where they're coming from, which I thought was quite good. But
that was one of the more frustrating articles that I've seen them releasing when they were talking about how we have to talk about how your sexual preferences is hurting trans people. It's like,
yeah, and that to me is weird because you can't make people fancy. Because I don't like all like dudes. I like not like.
You don't like dudes.
No, but I mean, like, I don't like.
She loves bros. She loves a bro dude.
I loved cutting bros off from drinking yesterday. It was really, really fun. Like, as a straight person, you're not attracted to every person of the gender you're attracted to. Like, you're not going to be attracted to, like, bisexual people aren't attracted to everybody. Presumably, like, pansexual people aren't attracted to literally everybody and everything. Like, it's personal. It's weird. I don't think you should say, like, I would never be attracted to a trans person or anything like that. I think that's bad.
Yeah.
But you're not obliged to be attracted to anyone.
And it is something that sort of you can't force upon people, you know.
No, but I think it is good for people to think about, like, hey, why would I think I wouldn't be attracted to this group of people? Like, what does that say about what I think about this group of people?
Yeah, you have to. It makes you take stock of how you think about that issue.
Yeah,
and obviously it's something that is new to people, a lot of people, you know.
Yeah. It's weird though, because it's almost like at the event horizon of being super woke, and then the kind of incel thing where it's like, I deserve people to be attracted to me. It's weird.
Like, it's sort of covering like for being a shitty person. Like, it doesn't matter what gender you are or what you identify as. If you're sorry to use the phrase, if you're a cunt, then like that's
you are.
Yeah, you are. Like, it doesn't matter. You can't use that as a like a bargaining and a leverage token to try and get somewhere, you know, because maybe you're just not a likable person. Yeah,
and like loads of straight people aren't likable, loads of cisgender people aren't likable. Presumably there are also transsexual people who aren't likable. To say that they aren't doesn't do anyone any service, I don't think.
Same with
people
are
just
from
people.
Different races.
Yeah,
like, there's obviously some black people that are, you know,
jerks.
Are terrible as well.
Yeah.
There's mostly a lot of white people that are terrible.
Yeah. There are a lot of them. And we did have a really big head start in history on being terrible. But
what was that? Obviously the Eurovision Song Contest was on last night.
Yeah.
And
right, yeah.
There's a famous, if you've not heard him, there's a few people that don't listen in the UK. That sounds like they don't listen to my podcast in the UK, but I mean,
there's only a few of them though.
People who aren't from the UK who listen to the podcast. Yeah, there's a famous, probably have heard of him then, a famous comedian called Frankie Boyle, and he was kind of tweeting on Facebook, like just posting on Facebook as every sort of Eurovision Song Contest.
Someone was clearly making him watch it, and he was not happy.
And he was basically, what was it? I'll have to get what
it was really funny. So for people who don't know him, he's known for being very
super
brutal and controversial, and like unafraid of just going full on at really controversial.
He's one of the only comedians that was told to sort of calm it down on a famous panel show on Channel 4, and he left because he was like, I'm not going to tone down what I do.
But he does he is really funny, which is I think the only reason why he has any career. And some of the stuff he talks about, I'm like, oh my God, I wish you wouldn't. But usually, I'm also laughing at whatever it is.
So basically, he was talking all the way through. Okay, so I think he's just posting tweets because he doesn't really do Facebook. I think so. He's just linked his Twitter.
That's my favorite word. Did you say Twitter
to Facebook, and they've came up because it feels like that sort of feel.
Yeah.
Where is it? There was a super funny. Okay. I think he took that one down, actually.
Really? That doesn't seem like him. He doesn't take stuff down. Doesn't even take himself down.
So basically, he was saying this is why white people shouldn't be allowed to make music. #Eurovision. Perhaps we should say he's talking about the British, as their obviously their entry for the Eurovision Song Contest, and his retort to it was, perhaps we should sing about the time we went to the other countries and raped everyone. #Eurovision. Which is, I thought was hilarious.
And I think he's because he's equally skeptical about everybody.
Yeah.
He is. He doesn't target anybody. He targets everybody.
No. Well, he's talking about the UK there.
Yeah, but he'll be like, he's very funny, but he's very harsh on everyone.
Yeah, so like obviously I could go on with the Vice articles. There's
any more highlights?
There's one here that says how to get back with your ex.
Oh God.
And that sounds like it's really sort of, I hate using this word, but could be a really toxic situation.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be a controversial.
Yeah.
Maybe a problematic. I know you like that word. A problematic article. Unless the whole article is just the word don't.
Supposedly it's according to experts.
Experts?
Perverts.
Experts.
Oh, here's one. Why I followed my mum into sex work.
Hopefully not.
But basically she probably didn't have childcare, maybe. She didn't have a babysitter, maybe.
She was just hanging out. She wasn't like doing it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so to lead it into the Eurovision, obviously it was a big event in Europe. I think who won last night, actually? Israel,
yeah, which is a whole other kettle of fish, because now it's going to have to be in Israel next year as well.
There was something in the news recently leading up to the Eurovision, and it was the Eurovision, I think the event pulls out of China after it censored an LGBTQ themed video that was on the Eurovision.
Yeah.
And it was basically an Irish singer. His name is Ryan O'Shaughnessy.
Shaughnessy?
Shaughnessy.
I lived in Ireland. I know what's going on.
The song was called Together, and it features two male dancers holding hands, and in China they censored that out while he was performing.
Did they just like blur their hands out?
Yeah,
so they were like maybe slowly high-fiving each other through the whole song?
When you see the video, it's just like a little part at the corner of the video.
Oh
and
my God, that's so
insane.
Mental. I
think that's cool though that they pulled out.
I think, because we were talking about it a little bit last night, and I was sort of relating it to how I think multiculturalism should work, which is we should totally have it, and you have your rights to your own culture unless it infringes on someone else's human rights.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. Your right to whatever freedom of religion can't infringe on somebody else's right to like make decisions about their own body, for instance. So that's when you have to chill out.
Yeah.
And to me, that's how it should work.
But then is that embracing everyone's sort of cultural aspects, if you then pull out of them because they censored something due to that's how their culture operates.
But to me, their culture falls under the bubble of everyone's human rights, and everything you want from your culture you can have until it infringes on somebody else, and then that's when you have to slow your roll, basically.
I mean, if it had been a black culture, would there been that sort of would that have happened towards it? Because
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah. But I think it should still, again, like once you get to the point of somebody's human rights. And that's the same with like questions of, you know, freedom of religion and things like Sharia law. Like, yes, have it all until it involves you being able to do something to somebody else that interferes with their human rights. And then you can't have that. You can have everything else up until that point. You can't have that.
Good on this guy, Ryan. Oh, what's his name? Ryan
Shaughnessy?
Yeah. I mean, he comes from a place that is notoriously sort of not very welcoming to homosexuality in Ireland, I guess. There's parts of it that are quite, obviously the Catholic ones, I guess.
Yeah, like our generation in Ireland, I think the support, like the backlash against the old-timey kind of...
Preface with Laura stayed in Ireland for 5 years, 6 years?
4 years.
Okay, you went to uni there.
I did, yeah. I went to my undergrad in Dublin, and it was brilliant. And to be fair, I haven't lived there in 6.5 years now, so I'm a little out of touch other than through my Irish friends' like Facebook feeds and
could have went the other way. Could have went super dark there.
Yeah. What?
Could have went super dark, as in like, you know, they're very conservative now, and
oh yeah, that would be weird.
The UP could have a big stronghold there maybe now.
Oh my god. That's the north though. That's but
north of the wall. I get
it. North of the wall. At least to me in the Republic of Ireland, I think my generation's support of the rights of people to like being free to express their sexuality, and especially the fight that's going on now over access to abortion, I think it's a very sort of, there's a big backlash against the conservatism and the sort of intense religious suppression of previous years in Ireland. And so there seemed to be so much embrace of like LGBTQ people, for instance, in Dublin. I know Dublin's going to be more cosmopolitan, maybe.
They're embracing it and that, but that's how it spreads. Like obviously, the Gentiles coming in and sort of setting up shed or whatever, you know, setting up shop in a like a major city like that, and then it spreads through the whole. I think that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah, it's like a trickle down effect of multiculturalism. Yeah. Well, I think it's like it is the Irish. It's not people coming in from abroad. It's just the generation. I mean, like, you know, loosely sort of. Yeah, like it trickles out from the sort of the more cosmopolitan centers, but I think it's like maybe because people had to wait longer for that freedom, and they are still waiting for a lot of it, that it all kind of exploded, as opposed to it being more subtle. It was a brilliant part of living in Ireland, just the general sort of people coming together of the young generation. Does it feel like a place that's part of Britain? You know, is it like... No, not really. Not in the Republic. Does it feel like it's UK? Yeah, like obviously it's Ireland. Yeah. But you could say it's just, that's semantics really, you know, it's just... No, it felt really different. Does it feel like a different place? It feels like a very different place, yeah. It feels a lot more... It's not like European, like continental, but it does feel more European. To be fair, I hadn't lived in the UK when I moved there, so... That was your first experience of sort of living close to the UK itself? Yeah, and I'd visited the UK once at that point. I'd spent like a month in the UK. Did you go up north though? When I lived in Ireland, I went to like 2 or 3 times. No, but I'd already been to the UK. But that's so funny though that you just go you're in another bit of land. Yeah. And you go across a tiny border, and that's you in the UK. Yeah. Like, that's so weird. It is weird. It is very weird. And you're still in the same country. Yeah, it's very weird, and it's also like I was super surprised when I actually went to the north. Like I didn't go. I think I went to Belfast in my second year of uni. And it was like way different than I thought, like just in terms of it still seeming quite troubled, and the sort of the history of the Troubles still seemed very much to be in progress, even though it's certainly better than it was. Now, I know you hadn't been there in a while, but you know people still, and you would have got a sort of an impression at the time from when you were there. But what is the sort of state of how people think where it's going to go, you know, for Ireland? Is it going to unify, or is it going to...
Oh God. I honestly, I never heard people really talk about that. I think it would be such people just want to not sort of nudge the hornet's nest. So I never heard anyone say they think that should happen or they think that shouldn't happen, or whether it will happen. Like, it's just not something I heard talked about.
Yeah, why, like, poke a sleeping bear?
Yeah, like, it's sort of like things had just calmed down and nobody was going to be like, hey, what's going on? And that was part of the concern over Brexit, and suddenly contemplating having a hard border possibly between the Republic and the North. Again, nobody wants to go there, I don't think. I'm sure there are some people. There's still some sort of hardline people on both sides, but no, I don't think... I think people were just kind of trying to get on with sort of their rights within their own country and all of that.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because I think Scotland and Ireland have had such a close relationship in the past, and but I don't know. I don't know how that is now. I think I don't really see a link anymore. I mean, when I was younger, it seemed like it was more sort of intensified because people were on this. Even though we speak different versions of Gaelic and Gaelic, you know, that was the thing that linked us with our traditional music as well. But then it feels like that's all sort of disappeared, I guess.
It's because I feel, and this is just a very superficial impression, but I feel like in Ireland generally there's a lot more done to support like the tradition of the like Gaelic, like Irish language, for instance, than there is in Scotland. And I don't see, because in Ireland, of course, there was a huge risk of all of that being taken away from them. And so there's been a really aggressive sort of support of it. And I don't understand why that hasn't been the case to the same extent in Scotland, because they really have the same history. And I felt like it was maybe more supported during sort of like maybe the Scottish Enlightenment and sort of some of the famous Scottish writers, and even like writers like James Hogg, who writes and sort of, he was like a shepherd and then he would write in sort of semi-colloquial like language. I just don't think it's happened to the same extent
No.
in the modern, or like in Ireland, like all the signs are in Irish and English, whereas in here, like in certain areas,
You get up to Inverness, I think.
Yeah.
After Inverness, which is like the northernmost, well, it's the biggest city after Aberdeen, I guess,
Yeah.
up there, and that's when it starts to become Gaelic or Gaelic.
yeah.
The signs, and it's like, it's funny.
And in Ireland, they have like Gaelic or Irish speaking areas.
We still have pockets of that, but I think there's only 2,000 people in Scotland that still speak Gaelic.
Yeah. And in Ireland, not that it would be, you know, people who speak it actively now, but I think almost all the kids I knew who'd grown up in Ireland had learned Irish and had gone through periods where they spoke Irish, and it was supported at the university. Like if you were an Irish speaker, you were sort of like entitled to different stuff. And it was a pretty Anglo university relatively as well. So
that's crazy though. Did you see this thing in the like Nigel Farage, you know, the guy that was part of UKIP, and then
he's an earthworm.
Yeah,
with a face kind of.
He started a petition to secure Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
He's such just like a shit stirrer. Like
even the idea of Trump getting a Nobel Peace Prize is insane.
It's really, we were talking about that. It's like being nebulously responsible for
police alarm.
That's definitely for
Police
football.
alarm.
Police alarm.
It's just someone screaming.
Go on
Cecilia.
out the way.
So yeah, sorry.
For a leader who, even though he's nebulously responsible for things hopefully calming down between the Koreas, still actively totally screwing things up in Syria and selling arms to Saudi Arabia and like destabilizing countries. And you can't, like, it's like giving somebody a gold star because they put out one of 18 fires that they set. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's pandering. But
it went out by itself because he threatened to start another fire there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it worked.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna set a bigger fire. Not even able to find that fire anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's so dumb. And then also
so they were talking about this on the radio, one of the local radio stations here, and they were having a discussion and a debate and a phone-in debate, which they usually do, which is interesting. Yeah. Because most of the people, the Joe public, are idiots.
Yeah, it's a good yardstick for just how dumb people are generally.
And a lot of people were saying, well, of course if he stopped, it doesn't matter how he did it. If he stopped nuclear war with North Korea, then he deserves to have a Nobel Peace Prize.
Maybe they should give it to Kim Jong-un then.
Exactly.
He did more stopping.
So what did he really do? Like that's
exactly. Like if you asked any of those people, like, what do you think it is that he did that directly involved this happening? Basically,
it's like giving the whoever who was in charge of like bombing Japan. Like it's like giving that person the Peace Prize because he stopped the war by bombing and killing 200,000 people. I mean, it's almost on that kind of level of stupidity.
Yeah, and at least then there'd be a direct cause and effect you could point to, even if it's totally wrong. Whereas in this case, it's like he's like, what?
But people are starting to pick up support for him now in America. Like I hear people standing up for him more now because of this. Like even on certain podcasts, I've heard like, not their attitudes like shifted towards Trump a little bit, and it's like, well, we just want America to do great, and you know, even if he is a buffoon, we have to just support the president.
Which is weird because like he is a buffoon. Whatever involvement he has in this, he did it by accident. Like he walked backward into it. It's not that this is some sort of plan he had. That's a ridiculous notion. Like this is a random effect of some stuff that he did.
And the surprising thing about the whole thing is it Moon and Kim Jong-un are both saying this all came about because of him. I mean,
like they're both like,
it's so weird.
Like, and to me, it's quite like it's almost kind of imperialistic as well to be like, oh, America came in and sorted it out in the Koreas. It's like, come on, just get over yourselves.
And it seems like it's gone we've talked about this on a podcast before, but Dave McCaffrey, the guy that was my friend that was on one of the episodes, and he explained that they just want America to leave that area, and then they want peace. They want a unified Korea. But it seems like it's gone past that. It seems like it's like they're actually praising America now. Like they want to be part of the imperialist Americans, and it's how did it go from hating the Western America, the world, and to now like saying that they deserve to be patted on the back and given a prize for stopping something.
I don't know, like I wonder what the media coverage is actually like in the Koreas, because of course we're just getting our Western media version of this, and we don't really know at all.
It's not something there's not a lot of people over here that fluently speak Korean or North Korean especially. What is the real story, Supposedly North Korea details that they're dismantling nuclear test site this month. So it's that quick that it's happening.
It's because they got to get in there before that mountain caves in. Otherwise they won't be able to find it.
And the Independent, okay. I think I'm seeing some people are saying that it's like a sort of strategic move by Kim, but I don't think he's in a position to do that. I think their country is virtually going to go bankrupt, and they're saying that there is some sort of geological things happening as well with the tests that they've done with nuclear weapons that is totally unstable. And
I had heard that as well.
They think this is one of the reasons that they're coming out and opening up. I wonder what's going to happen with that, though. That's going to be so strange. Like, do North Korea and South Korea become one, and do they open up the border?
Well,
and
that's my question.
Does one remain a dictatorship, and does the other one remain, a democracy?
Yeah, and what is the North Korean population going to do? Like, I can't imagine that their leaders think that if they can leave, that they won't leave, because unless they're just like super duper brainwashed, it doesn't sound, and again, we're only hearing this from outside and maybe propagandistic sources, but it doesn't sound like it's a really good life there. So it's sort of like when the Berlin Wall came down, like people weren't, flooding into like, it only was going in one direction basically. Where can we get fresh vegetables and television?
Maybe they'll take on the same sort of format as China, maybe North Korea, to be vaguely sort of communist, sort of, Could you describe North Korea as a communist country anyway?
Yeah.
I thought it was just like a pure dictatorship, and I don't know if those two things are always like one and the same.
No, they don't have to be, but I think
they are
in that case.
As a communist republic, it's in the name. Sorry, I'm being silly.
It's sort of like you don't have to be a dictator to run communism, but it helps or something.
And sort of to move it on, obviously this week in Scotland sort of been there's someone who was in a band called Frightened Rabbit, and his name was Scott Hutchison. He was the lead singer, and him and his brother, I think his brother played in the band as well. And Scott was only 36, but they were quite revered in Scotland. I mean, I've been listening to them for a while, and a lot of my friends have been listening to them, and they're kind of there's another band from Scotland called Biffy Clyro, and they're kind of almost a little bit on par with them, how people sort of love them and see them as a sort of national treasure now. And it came out this week that he'd went missing, and it was in Edinburgh actually. I think he
outside.
We went missing around Queensferry.
The Dakota Hotel. We've always driven past that. It's the black.
Is that where he went missing?
Yeah, that was like where he was last seen, I think.
So it's a hotel that's pretty close to the motorway. It's a beautiful, like, modern sort of. It looks like something out of some sci-fi movie.
Yeah, I think it looks kind of creepy. I think it looks like it's like a giant complex of sunbeds. But
it's where like Hostel probably takes place, the movie.
It looks like there's like, you go inside and you realize there are no windows, but anyway, but it was South Queensferry, so like that side of the crossing of the Forth there.
So it came out I think a couple of days ago that a body had been discovered, and I don't know if it was in the water or near.
I haven't heard. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's someone. Yeah, he disappeared on Wednesday, and then everyone, like, there was a sort of national search for him.
Like lots of people posting and sharing,
and he was supposed to be vulnerable at that time. People were saying that he was in a vulnerable state.
Yeah,
so they were super worried about him, I guess, and then it turns out that he was found dead, and I don't know the circumstances yet. There's no details been released.
I think they had to like speak to the family and everything, of course, before they would release things publicly, even if they do that, depending on, sort of respect, basically.
But just basically, we don't know if it was suicide. I assume it was,
Yeah, it sounds like, and they, like, his brother said he'd struggled with, depression, and like it seems to be such a common story, especially amongst young men in Scotland.
Well, this is what I was going to say. It's shown again, that it is something that's sort of an issue. Like, young men across the world, not just Scotland, but it's highlighted this issue that young men are struggling, and it feels in this day and age that it's probably tougher to say that, and it's tougher to sort of try and get that out there without it being seen as like sort of men's rights activists.
Oh, and it's so frustrating that those things, because I always, when people talk about, sexism harms all genders. Like, it's not all aimed at women. It's and whenever people talk about toxic masculinity, they make it sound like that's a thing men are doing, but it's also a thing that's happening to men. And not that this is like part of that necessarily, but it's sort of like, if you're expected to behave a certain way as a man, like, there's a lot of pressure on you to experience your own emotions in a certain way and to express yourself in a certain way. And it's, again, like, I don't know why people have such a hard time with this. Two things can be bad. Like, bad things can happen to women. A lot of them are done by men. Bad things can happen to men as well. Like, I don't know why that's so difficult. It's certainly, I understand when, like, you start one conversation and it gets sort of diverted into another. That can be frustrating, in terms of if you're trying to talk about something that affects you as a woman and somebody has to say, but what about this thing affecting men? It's like a non sequitur, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. It's just maybe two separate conversations or one bigger conversation. And it
goes on to highlight, it's an issue. It's something that's happening to predominantly young men between the ages of 15 to 24 and 24 to 35-year-olds, according to the statistics. And this is US. So suicide is the third leading cause of death. And second for 24 to 35-year-olds. So they're saying on average, one person commits suicide every 16.2 minutes.
Yikes.
And I think that's in the US. I'm not sure.
That's sad.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like how would you word it? Like a epidemic?
Yeah. I think that's the kind of thing that they would hesitate to publicize in that way, because it tends to be something that it's like suicides tend to follow suicides.
You don't want to like sensationalize them.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is like, for some reason, that's a thing that sort of snowballs or involves like.
But I feel sort of not guilty, but just a little hesitant to talk about it. Like, it's sort of, and you shouldn't. But at the same time, it's like, you feel like you're going to get judged for trying to make it highlight as an issue that's affecting a lot of men.
Yeah. And I think like mental health is an issue that affects everybody, but I think the way that we expect men to act regarding their own mental health puts a lot of pressure on men to kind of, it's like, real men don't cry or whatever, like all that stupid stuff. If you're already struggling and then you're told the way you're handling it, or you don't feel like there's a way you can handle it, you don't feel like you can get help or speak to your friends or speak to your partner or your parents or whatever, and that you should just man up, whatever that is.
It's sad that it takes something like that to happen for people to become aware of it, but that's the only way it does happen, I guess. It's sort of slightly weird dichotomy that it has with itself, like these people are dying and it takes that for that to be highlighted.
And I've been super impressed with past guests you've had who are men who are able to discuss their own sort of struggles with mental health. I think it's really important for people to hear that, like, interesting grown-up complex manly men can talk about these things, and that you're not giving anything away by doing that, or you're not like lessening yourself by doing that.
It's something that surprised me, the amount of friends that I've had on that have talked about some point in their life where they've had issues. And I mean, is it just the type of friends that I've kept that, you know, they're in music and they're doing certain things that are sort of artistic, and there are a lot of people that can happen to in those sort of things. So maybe it's just a more majority of the type of friends I've had growing up.
Yeah, if it's sort of like a confirmation bias,
susceptible to that type of thing,
or are more capable of speaking about it, who's more in touch with it. True. Like, that's possible as well.
And when you're doing a podcast, and I've had a few guests on, obviously Robert, I wanted to have him on today, knowing that he would probably be able to talk what he went through. Obviously he had depression, and that is obviously linked to suicide. I mean, it's rarely a case where a suicide happens off the cuff, you know, without a build-up of depression. People go through that. I mean, it's tough to end your life, and that comes through just months and years of being in that state, I guess. Yeah,
and it would just the sort of...
So he would have been someone that could have spoke about this, you know, because he's went through a lot of stuff in his life. And yeah, I've like I was saying, I was surprised at how many people have been on the podcast that have had issues with it. Mostly males, obviously. I mean, I don't know, would a woman really tell people that she's depressed, you know?
I think women are not punished the way men are for talking about their feelings. I think there are a lot of aspects of sort of being a woman where things are maybe emotionally exhausting in a way that we don't get to speak about, but I don't think that there's the same pressure on us to, like, again, man up is always the expression you hear. We're allowed to, like, cry and be stressed out and be anxious more.
Do you think it's a biological thing, or is it a societal thing that men sort of, like, they're just through their genetics that they don't...
I always think it's both. They have
a tendency to, you know, have these sort of bouts, or is it something that's sort of, because you're a guy in society, that it's harder for you to have an outlet with your emotions, and that can build over time into something that's not healthy, and then that can lead to something else, obviously.
I never think you can separate like biology and culture. Like, they feed each other. So yeah, I wouldn't want to like... The thing also with any statistics you can collect on something like depression is, like, it's all going to be self-reported. So it's going to be a person's own interpretation, or whether they're comfortable saying yes or no to that, or whatever. So you're not going to be able to get a baseline in a population about just straight up whether more people suffer from it in either gender. And I think certainly, like, mental illness is still really stigmatized amongst women as it is in men, and it shouldn't be, because, I mean, you don't blame people for getting cancer. But I do think women maybe do have more outlets, like they're more maybe comfortable speaking with their friends about their feelings or their partners or whatever. I do think there are things women repress a lot as well, but not the same things necessarily.
It seems like there's a sort of general outlet for women, because it's easier for you to talk about your feelings. Yeah,
and we're not, like, punished by society the same way for having feelings and for expressing them.
It's probably not easier to express your feelings. It's just probably, like you say, it's not seen as a bad thing.
You're just allowed to. And even that, even knowing you can, even if you don't, maybe that's less pressure on you. I don't know. I think maybe an area where it's especially complicated for women is feelings around, like, motherhood and parenthood, and they talk about sort of the emotional weight of being the kind of primary domestic person. And it's not work that's necessarily seen as valuable, but it can be very emotionally exhausting. I was thinking about it, actually. We were talking about, because obviously I work in a bar, so I work in hospitality, and just today we went out to a cafe, and there were two young ladies who were working there, and there was a guy who came in, and he was clearly, I guess, lonely. Just wanted a natter, but was a bit scary. Not like too scary, but a bit scary. And these girls are in this situation where they basically just have to be nice to this guy. At one point he got angry because he didn't feel that they were appreciating his company, basically. And you have to negotiate this line if you have to be friendly to this person. You don't really know what they're going to do.
But that could have been a call for help as well. You know, you don't know what's going on in that background.
Yeah.
And obviously, if it isn't, and it's someone just being a pest, then they're kind of holding you hostage by your profession. But then at the same time, what if it was someone who was just in a need of a conversation?
Yeah,
you know?
and you do your best. But what I'm concentrating on is sort of how many women are the people who do jobs like that, and how much you have to kind of negotiate kind of social interactions like that, because you are responsible for that person's well-being, you're responsible for your own well-being, you're responsible for the things that are going on around you. And then just after that, when I went to the shop in the road, and there were these lads in there yelling at the girls working there, and those guys are having fun, and they don't realize that the women not only have to put up with it, but they have to put up with it with a smile on their faces. And it's not that men don't have those type of jobs as well, but a lot of it comes down to women.
Are women that are facing it more because of the type of, the hospitality side of it.
Yeah. And we were talking about, like, when I'm working, and especially when you're working in a bar, and for some reason, like 25% of people don't understand that you're not being nice to them because you are uncontrollably attracted to them. You're being nice to them because you're getting paid to be nice to them, and they can't.
It's so fascinating to see the amount of guys, especially, that come up to you, and obviously you're a semi-attractive girl, so
thank you. You're a semi-attractive girl too.
Thank you. I'm really pleased you said that. But yeah, they kind of just hold you hostage slightly with when they talk to you and what they're talking to you about, like, trying to be all pally with you, and because you have to not reciprocate it, but be friendly to them because it's part of your job. And they take that as, and you not saying no, and not, putting them down for trying to, like, speak to you in a certain way, and then it kind of, like, gets weird, and it's...
Yeah. And you get asked out so much by customers, like, and it's like, do you not understand, like, do you not go throughout your days, like, often, like, getting drinks from bars and having waitresses, and do you not get that they're not all, like, they don't all fancy you? Like, it's just not... It's so weird.
Just to reel it back to what we were talking about, though, with Scott Hutchison.
Yeah.
Just anybody that they feel like they're going through anything, it's just so important to speak to someone.
Yeah.
And I think this highlights it. And obviously, there's going to be someone. It happens in the future. It's just the way these things go, and it shouldn't be something that happens because you don't feel like you could talk to someone, or there's no outlet for you, and it's completely wrong to think that.
Yeah, or that you're going to be mocked for speaking about it. That's not where we are anymore.
All it takes is for you to say something to someone. That's all it is. And most of the time, these things come from a place where it's bottled up.
Yeah.
And all it is just one conversation or one thing you have to say to someone, and that's it. Just to keep yourself in the right mind, and to know that there are other people out there that are going through things like that, and it's never the answer. And
probably most other people are going, not necessarily to the same degree, but everyone will have had experiences struggling with their mental health, or the mental health of the people they love, trying to support them.
Because it is a jarring word, like mental health. It seems like you're sort of like not just completely off the rails. It's when you hear someone sort of attach it to yourself, like your mental health, it's like, whoa, that seems like it's a legit real heavy thing, but it's not. It's just to describe how you are, and it's something people struggle with their mental health, and that's just it. And like, just speak to someone. That's all I can say, just that has to be the only outcome of what's happening to you, is speak to people, and it's something that you can talk to people with and get help with.
And sometimes you just need to talk to your friends or your family, and sometimes you need more help than that, and there's nothing wrong with that, because again, you don't stigmatize
or even a stranger,
like needing to go to a doctor if you're ill.
It's always, don't try and scare someone on a dark night, but sometimes it's the best to speak to someone that you don't know, because you can just let go and talk to them. Because they're not, they're not going to judge you. Not that anyone would in the first place.
No.
But it seems, just talk to someone, that's all it takes.
And I think sometimes people are afraid that talking about something makes it more real.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the time, at least for me, if I'm anxious or upset about something, talking about it takes a while to get there, but when you do, you kind of realize you've already got it sorted. Like, just by talking about it, you kind of organize it. And that's not to say that's going to solve all your problems, but I think thinking it will hurt is wrong.
Yeah.
It might not be fun, and it might be difficult to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a heavy subject, and it is something that's real, and it's something that affects a lot of people, guys and girls.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. Oh, I think sorry for the dogs.
Yup. Oh.
He might be crying for help.
Maybe.
Yeah, but just to leave it on that note, just speak to someone, and they shouldn't have a repeat of this sort of thing happening. You know, it's terrible. You know, and it's a sad situation that happened this week, and but it doesn't mean that it should happen more. You know. Anyway, so yeah, like I think Deadpool 2, which we're excited for, is coming out.
So excited! It's coming out. Is it like next week? It's quite soon.
I don't know when is it actually.
I think it's soon.
Let's see, Deadpool. So I'm not one to watch the lead up to a movie with all the trailers and all the sort of spiel going on shows.
No,
but I think they've, like Ryan Reynolds, is sort of perfected not showing too much and not giving away too much about the actual movie. Like he's just being himself, and he's fun. Like I've grown to him. Yeah,
I hated him when back when, I don't know, like Blade 3 came out. I was like, who's this young upstart?
I saw him in 16th of May.
Oh, so that's like really soon because it's the 13th of May.
Wow, so
next week.
I'm not good at maths, but that's like 5 days away. I'm joking. Or am I?
I don't know.
You decide. Yeah, so when was it I first saw him? Funny fact, he's Canadian, obviously.
He is Canadian. That's why he's delightful.
No, that's why he's so annoying.
Oh. No, he's hot and brilliant.
I'm trying to remember
Canadians are.
when I first saw him. I think it was early 2000s, and he was in the one where he was at college. He was in college, but he'd repeated like the same year, so he was in it for like 7 years college. But he wasn't doing like a sort of doctor or whatever. Okay.
I haven't seen that.
Okay. Was it? Van Wilder.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen
Party
that.
Liaison, which was his. It was pretty terrible.
It sounds pretty terrible. Oh my god, that's disturbing.
I'm just showing her one of the stills from the movie.
It's from 2002, and he's.
But basically, he's the party dude.
Okay.
And he gets all the parties and knows everyone, like is friends with everyone, because he's like a 30-year-old. College student.
Yeah, he's a pro at being in college.
And, everyone comes to him for advice.
Of course, yeah.
And he sets up all the parties, knows where to get all the booze and all that type of thing. It was terrible, but very funny at the same time.
Huh.
Van Wilder.
Yeah, I think I saw. Yeah, it was Blade Trinity I first saw him in, and apparently Wesley Snipes was like super horrible to him on set.
No, Laura, you just were racist there. It wasn't Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, it was.
No.
In Blade.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the story he told when he was on set.
No.
He was on set with... What's his name?
I can't remember that guy's name. But no, I'm talking about Blade 3 with Wesley Snipes.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
I thought you made a
no. But apparently he has a history of being horribled at by his black co-stars.
Yeah, like I've really warmed up to him because he is Deadpool, you know, there's no other way around it, and he's hilarious in real life. I think the movies that he was in sort of like it didn't fly with his personality in interviews, because it seemed like he was like this sort of I'm trying to be with him being Deadpool and being able to just be himself.
He can be himself, because he's Deadpool.
And he's now he's just, I find him so funny.
Yeah, he's become just super likable. And knowing how involved he is with the films as well, like that has made me sort of respect him a lot more.
Yeah. And he also cares for the character. I mean, he wants to bring a brilliant and sort of realistic representation of Deadpool to life, because it's so well loved.
And he owed us a lot after the shit Deadpool he was in Wolverine.
And Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, actually, yeah. Oh, God, I started trying to watch that and I couldn't make it. It was not good.
It's definitely one you have to watch while very, very, very high.
I think unless I watched that heavily concussed, I wouldn't be able to make it. I'd have to be immobilized.
I think he made it heavily concussed as well.
It seems like everyone was heavily concussed.
And it had like potentially a good cast as well. There's some good actors in there. I think.
I don't think the
Okay, you just calm your hum.
No, I just mean I think is that the one is Blake Lively, who's his real life wife?
Real life wife. Is she in it? Gesundheit.
Thank you.
That's not what you said.
I think maybe
Peter Sarsgaard.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Mark Strong, Tim Robbins.
I love Mark Strong.
J. O. Sanders, Taika Waititi's in it.
He is?
Yeah.
Who's he in that?
That's crazy.
That's weird. He was there the whole time and we never knew.
He must be an animated character. He's Tom Calm. Oh, he's the friend in it.
I don't remember, honestly.
That's
traumatic
crazy.
amnesia.
So the guy that's directed the recent Thor Ragnarok, and he was in What We Do in the Shadows. He directed and starred in it.
Yes.
And he directed some of Flight of the Conchords as well. He's actually in the Green Lantern.
That is super weird.
I think he was the friend. He wasn't like one of the characters. I think he was just like his flatmate.
Okay, that's weird. Why would he end up in that? What were you doing? He's probably raising money to make actually good films.
Yeah, he was probably contractually obliged to.
Yeah. That's so weird.
So.
Surprise.
Yes. I wonder who. Yeah, okay.
It's like the Bader-Meinhof complex or whatever. Like once you learn a word, you see it everywhere kind of thing.
I still can't say his name. Was it Taika Waititi?
I think so. I don't know if it's like overpronouncing it right. But yeah.
And we watched one of his recent movies. Well, not recent, 2010.
Yeah.
And it was one of his original movies that he released called Boy.
Yes.
And it's set in New Zealand.
Yes.
And it's basically about this young boy that's called Boy, who lives with his grandma and his several siblings from various different parents, I guess.
Yeah.
Separate.
It's hard
it
to
seems
tell.
like that.
Yeah.
They're not all the dad's kid.
No.
Basically, his gran goes off to a funeral and leaves them all in this like shabby house. They're like sort of island kids as well, I think, are they?
Yeah, I'm not. It seems quite remote. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, but they're all sort of.
And it's him just sort of like. He loves Michael Jackson. It's set in the 80s as well. And yeah, it was hilarious.
It was good. My favorite part though is the post-credit sequence, and they all do like a Haka version of the Thriller video, and
if you just watch this movie purely for the ending, I mean the movie's good, but the ending just like elevated it.
So good.
I would watch it just to watch the ending again.
I really want there to be like a full length. And I don't mean a full length like music video. I mean like 90 minutes of them doing the Thriller Haka. It's so good.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
like, they've managed to merge both those things so seamlessly.
It's amazing. It's and the kids are like really kids in it. Like it's not like disturbingly over drilled or whatever. They just seem like they're having fun, but it's amazing. Oh my god.
Just to sort of bring the tone down again, did you hear about this woman in Dundee, Scotland, and they decapitated her baby?
Oh god. I started reading about I don't
while
wanna.
she was in the womb.
I don't wanna.
So basically
no.
They were giving birth, and the person that was delivering the baby ended up pulling the legs, and they ended up
I really don't want to talk about this. I'm
really?
sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna I get like a hot flash. Like it's awful.
You're so Canadian.
Oh, no, it's too awful. It's horrible. Yeah. So if anyone wants to hear about that, look it up in the news.
Well, we can just skip the details.
Yeah.
But I think the woman who was that was delivering the baby, she's been like pretty much, she's taken to like, they're not charging her, but she's been taken to like a tribunal court or something like that. No, she's not been dismissed from her job, but they've taken her to like some sort of tribunal.
Okay.
Like workplace, like, like neglect type thing. And she's going through that process.
Yeah.
But she doesn't work there anymore, I guess. She left. It was in 2014.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think she doesn't work there anymore. So I don't know how they would pursue it, or what could happen out of it. They can't, say you're not working here anymore. She doesn't work there.
Yeah, but they could strip her of her medical license, presumably.
I don't know if she is working anymore. Maybe under that. That might be
but they could still strip her of it so she can't anymore. Have they not like sued her as well?
I think that may be the next step. But no, they haven't. I think she had she had the workplace thing where it was dealt with in house, however they do it. And then it came to nothing, so I think they're actually going to try and sue her.
Yeah, well, I would think that the woman that happened to would want to sue her.
Yeah, I mean,
and whoever.
We won't go into the details. No. But it's pretty horrific.
And it sounded like it was not a situation that...
Not necessary.
Yeah, like it was... Yeah.
I mean, the reports are that there was a lot, obviously, because of the type of way they were giving birth and what was happening, the cord was wrapped around the neck, that there was a lot of people in the room, so that it wasn't just her by herself making a decision to try and save this baby, because it was coming out legs first.
Yeah.
And there was more than like a few,
Yeah.
I don't know what they call them, the people that make the decisions while they're there. And they were like, no, we don't want to do this. We want to do like a C-section.
Yeah, which...
And she just didn't take their advice.
No, because it sounded like basically the woman wasn't enough in labor yet to deliver without a C-section.
I think she was like 2 or 3 centimeters, I think, which is not that, like... No. You have to be more, but obviously the cord was wrapped around its neck and the legs, it was coming legs first, so it was like they had to do something. Yeah. Obviously the C-section was the road that they should have went down. Yeah. I don't know why that decision got made. I couldn't finish reading about it because it was like, I can't handle it. It's, But I think they sewed the head back on as well. Nope. No more. I'm serious. Like, I feel sick, honestly. I can't. I've started watching that Wild Country people, or Wild. It's like a... I sound weird when I say it. Wild Country. Wild. I think it's about the cult that tried to start up in America during the sort of late 60s, and it's this guy from India. I'm sure he's Indian, and he has like an obscene amount of money. Yeah. And it was all sort of built up through the elite in India that sort of trying to start to subscribe to what he was saying. Yeah. And all the cream of the crop of Indian society were funding him. So then he eventually came to America, and then he started to get people following him over there. And, but it was a lot of people that were in high up businesses that were just jaded by dealing in that and modern society as well. And he gave like advice on spirituality and sex and all these types of things, but it was a cult. Yeah. And they supposedly they bought over an area in America that was 50. No. Oh, I've heard about this. 500,000 acres. Yeah. Like an insane. I've heard about this. What were they called? It was. I've definitely heard about it. You'll know it when I say it. Yeah. 2 seconds. I'll just Google it. Wild. Sorry about I just can't talk about the baby thing. It's too much. No, it's too bad. Makes sense, Yeah. It's about the Indian guru Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. And it was an Oregon desert. They built a utopian city in the Oregon desert. Yeah. And it caused massive conflict with the local ranchers, obviously. Yeah. What was it called? The what? The city, like the... Oh, okay. I'll just Wikipedia. Or the area or whatever. Because it's really ringing a bell. Okay. So they were called the Rajneesh Puram community. Located in Wasco County, Oregon. Yeah. That does ring a bell. So it's like a series, obviously. There's episodes to it. And it was funny, like when I was watching it, there's one of the women in it who had sort of helped him come to the level he was. Obviously he was famous when she met him because she was only 16 at the time, and she met him in India, and he was like 30 something. He was balding and had long beard and all that. As everyone in their 30s is. All gurus are, of course. Yes. And sandals. And she described the first time she met him, and she was crying, she cuddled him and started like bawling with tears. Oh my god, and that's intense. Basically from that day on, she was like his assistant, and it got like extremely weird. But it started extremely weird. But there's no sort of like where he came from up until that point. Okay. It just seemed they gave a little preface to it, but they don't say where he was born. I've only been in the first episode. Maybe they'll like do a kind of a flashback, like his growing up or something. It was funny just watching her describe it. Like you could see it in her eyes that she still was in love with this guy. Yeah. And it was like, how can she's like extremely intelligent, this woman, and it's like, how can you believe in this guy in this way, like, and think he was important and like be like cry when you see him and like weep and try and kiss his feet. You know, it's like, how can that one person, how can you have them above you so much and hold them on such a pedestal that can have a physical effect on you like that?
And to me, like,
and that person's physically no different. Well, he's a guy, obviously, and she's a she.
Yeah.
Well, I think
she's a she.
I'm not assuming her gender.
Yeah, they're them.
But yeah, like we're just both biological people. He has nothing special that holds him over anybody.
Yeah.
Just the way he talks and manipulates people, you know, that's it.
That's
and
so
how can
cute.
she
Like,
cry
that's crazy
over this guy, you know, and still, like, she says she was in love with him, you know, and
and to me, unless you can't, I don't think you can like fully experience love unless it's a relationship. Like, there has to be some level of equality there.
Yeah.
So if it's just like worship, that doesn't feel like a complete feeling.
No.
Like that's very strange.
I don't know where it goes, but towards the end of it, he blessed her and said that you love me and I love you, and it was sort of, I guess they were together.
Yeah, but like Jesus loves everyone, you know.
He's such a homo. Yeah, so if anyone's want to watch it, it's on Netflix, called Wild Country. It's
Wild. I like when you say words.
I know. Well, hopefully, because I say
fruity.
a lot of them. I'm not your monkey boy. I'm not just going to dance for you when you want me to. Tutti frutti.
Yay.
Yeah, so give it a watch.
Sweet.
And we also, what was it? The Witch. This is an old movie.
Yeah.
We watched it a couple of weeks ago on Netflix. I was a bit hesitant to watch it because I hate sort of horror movies because they're not scary to me.
Yeah.
I never jump at them. I just think they're daft sometimes because they have a really absurd storylines. And yeah, it's never anything that's...
And I tend to feel the same way, but this one I'd read really good reviews of, saying it was sort of like more psychological, not like a psychological thriller. We had a lot of discussions after about what actual genre it was because it's quite hard to define.
It's very...
But
it's about,
fortunately, you trusted me.
It's like a New England, it's set in New England.
Yeah.
And
like early New England.
So basically maybe 60 years after the first people, like the Pilgrims came to America and set up shop. So they're kind of semi-established.
Yeah.
But they're still having a tough time surviving in a place that they don't relatively know how to sort of reap the natural benefits of yet, and they're still trying to like worship God and you know, do all the things they did in England,
be very religiously fundamental. And this family had come over, like the oldest child had, or at least the oldest child, maybe the other children as well, had been born in England but were like very young when they came over.
Americans. What was it called at that point? What was the land called at that point? It wasn't America.
I don't know when they started, because America's weird because it's named after like, it's like the third or fourth guy to discover America, Amerigo Vespucci.
But yeah, that was named after someone, wasn't it?
Amerigo Vespucci is the explorer, one of the explorers, not the guy who nobody discovered America, first of all, but second of all, he wasn't even like the first European to go to America. So
yeah, I hate when people sort of, just to distract from that, but when people sort of bring up, oh well, this culture was actually the first to discover the Americas. It's like,
it's like no,
people have always just been on it, you know. Regardless, it's just been continually settled from old times. It's just the way it is. It's not like, but that, remember when you were younger, that paradigm in your head was, oh, Christopher Columbus came there. He discovered America, like the Indians.
Yeah, there's some folks there, but they didn't count.
No, it
they
doesn't
didn't
matter.
have stone houses, so screw them. They
didn't have boats. Fuck
didn't
them.
have shoes. They
didn't have smallpox. Biatch. And
they did now.
Like you just assume that that's how Americas went down. Like it got discovered and taken over, and it became such a an amazing, thriving country. He's
making bunny ears with his fingers.
But it's always just continually been supported. Like there was large amounts. I hate using the word Native Americans because like no one's really native.
It's a weird one. It's like how far back do you go? And
but they had massive cities in both South America and North America, like ones that were probably bigger than some places in Europe. You know, they had a more population as well.
Yeah, especially in South America. Yeah. And that there were, like, we just keep having to wind the clock back, because every time we think we found the earliest, whatever, human footprint in whatever area, you find something older. and like evidence of people coming maybe from like Australia and Polynesia up through South America.
And that is one that's sort of on the fringe of what people are starting to think might have happened with. They think maybe at both ends, like the sort of lower South America on the sort of west side was how the Polynesian and the sort of Australians came up. Aboriginals, they think that might have happened, and obviously across the Bering Strait.
Folks coming down as well. And then whether or not there were already people there before that, like it's we only can't prove a negative. Like
it's a massive landmass to not have of anybody on it at any point in time. It just seems so stupid, like to think that there would be nobody before the Native Americans had been there, that there was nobody there. I mean, how long between the out of Africa until 12,000 years ago? That is a massive amount of time to have it just uninhabited by anybody. That's so stupid, you know. It's not directly out of Africa and then this massive long millions of years progression to get to America. That's not how it works.
It wasn't just it's so funny.
Well, it did happen like that, but not over the course of, you know, there would have been like stop start, and then eventually, well, not eventually, I think relatively quickly people spread out very wide,
because that's the thing as well, is like we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know.
You can assume it, but it's hard to do that without sort of proper evidence. You can sort of infer a lot of stuff as well, like, oh, this seems like it would happen just out of how people spread.
It's a theory.
And time as well, like time's huge, in between those out of Africa and up until 12,000 years ago, and that's given enough time for cultures to rise and come up and civilizations to come to fruition and die out again and leave no trace. There's a lot of geological things that went on that probably would have wiped out a lot of evidence.
Or stuff we just haven't found yet by chance. Like, it's like all you need is one shard of pottery that's not where you think it should be, basically, but you have to find it first if it's like in a jungle or in the bottom of a river.
And the sort of social zeitgeist to change as well, because people just assume that, even people in academia, that they have a time frame for America that they think people were there. And then if there's something that comes out with that, maybe one piece of something, it's like, well, how can we quantify this one piece that's from a different time completely? Maybe it's just the data's wrong, maybe the records are wrong.
Maybe like anything that is that much of an outlier, it's tempting to discard. And especially when you have something that you've established as like a framework.
And even so, like, sorry to interject, but even like, so it should be, you know, science needs lots of evidence to sort of corroborate and then say something is something, like just to have one tiny little piece of something and then try and base a whole bit of science on the back of it. It's hard to do that.
And huge mistakes have been made because of that, when sort of things like archaeology and paleontology were newer. People make mistakes.
You have to be cautious.
But you have to be willing to reevaluate what you think is a given as well. Which is weird and fun.
And to bring that back to the witch, obviously this is when the first white settlers came. We think the first white settlers, the first evidence of modern settlers in America.
This is like one of those when you like have an off-brand product and you have to like describe what it is other than saying what it is. You're like the
roller
the
cola,
blondest people we think.
The roller cola.
Exactly. The carbonated chemical-based soft drink with sweeteners and sugar. Yes,
that one. But they're basically just trying to survive in this harsh land, because it's alien to them as it is to a lot of people.
And it's almost the land, and you get this a lot in sort of like early settlers in North America films, but it's a trope I really love, is the land itself is almost maybe not an enemy, but it is an entity, and it's maybe hostile. Like, it's not their friend.
It does, it's
sort of rejecting
like
them.
Sort of like benevolent, you know, it like feels
or
like
malevolent.
Malevolent. It feels like it's a sort of a silent, dark, foreboding entity, like you're saying. It's something that's gonna, you know, like
at best it's watching them, and at worst it's waiting.
Even just the woods coming to swallow you up, you know, just like that, you know. It feels like it is.
I'm getting like chills talking about it now.
But I don't want to give too much away.
No, and it's hard to discuss without giving away. Basically, they kind of ratchet up this atmosphere of kind of paranoia, and it's all within the single family unit. And they've sort of been expelled from the community they were staying in, and it doesn't really matter why, and they're not super clear on it. It's part of the sort of that's the beginning of the tension.
Yeah.
And they find themselves at this kind of remote homestead. And it's like, how do you build sort of psychological and social tension within a family unit that small? And especially because they're all like super religious fundamentalists.
Yeah.
So there's not a big range of interactions
No.
there.
Yeah.
And
it's like kids and adults. Like there's not a lot of way of expressing how you're feeling or whatever, because it's a bunch of kids as well. Like they're barely human.
Yeah. And a lot of the dialogue is based on sort of contemporary accounts. Yeah. And a fair few of the sort of, once we started looking into the kind of trivia and stuff, a lot of it has like basis. Yeah. Which is interesting, but that you get into this thing where you're like second guessing, and then you're second guessing, and
because you don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, and it's
just a fantastic movie.
It's really, I was really impressed by it. Yeah.
It's the Witch, and it came out in 2015. Yeah. It's on Netflix, is it?
I forget if it was Netflix or.
Yes, I think it's Netflix or Amazon. Anyway,
if you get it's on the internet. Watch it.
If you get a chance to watch it.
Yeah.
I think that is us for this
week.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it's like 2 hours already, I think.
Sweet.
So if like people obviously want to go and view your amazing artwork and see your wine and food posts on Instagram,
check me out.
Where would I go as a punter to go and do that?
So I'm at Laura_Z_Hope on Instagram, and I pretty much post artwork that I have done and wine, because those are my main interests.
Lovely wine and lovely art.
And sometimes my cute boyfriend.
You're a cute boyfriend?
Yes.
Is that
He's
like
very acute.
I thought it was like a symptom of something.
He's a cutely boyfriend.
I have a cute boyfriend.
I have an idiopathic boyfriend.
Go check out her stuff. It is amazing. And go and look at her artwork. And
cheers.
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Peace, everyone.